when I came in this morning, yeah, I was on the tube for the first time in ages.
Got the common touch.
Yeah, I thought I'd mix with the people like Corbyn.
That's all right.
But I just remembered why I don't like one part of London. One thing about London I don't like, yeah, and that is when I was on the tube, this drunk hobo just peed himself, and like it was just dripping everywhere. And when the train was going forward, it was moving this way, and it was stopping, it was moving that way, and everyone was just legit, like just sitting there like it was a legit thing to do. He was just like asleep like that.
Please don't
So
tell me
you
you took
so
a dump in the
basically what
carriage.
Salman is telling us is he had an entertaining train journey because he spent most of the time looking at this puddle
No,
Yeah.
and seeing which direction it takes.
Exactly.
next.
I got off on the next stop, and there was no train staff there. Thank you, Tories. And the train stopped for a while.
Why
so
didn't
I
you
just
just
went
move
down.
carriages, bro?
It's
No.
a continuous one, man. It really stunk.
But it wasn't going to follow you, was it?
It
Down
was,
the other
it
end?
was.
It was following him.
Yeah.
I think that's what
Yeah.
he's trying to say.
From the
But I
bottom of his trouser leg.
Wait, now it all makes sense now.
He remembers a little bit later.
Why do you think he's wearing his pajamas now?
Yeah, blatantly, yeah.
But I was about to tell the driver, it was a lady. She came out. She was doing something on the side. I was walking. She saw me. She got in and she just drove the train off. So Islamophobia.
Because
And then I heard.
she saw
and
you
then I
coming
heard
and then
Yeah.
ignored you.
There was no one to explain, because someone's going to sit on that chair and get all napakia as a result of that, encounter. But then on the tannoy system, they just announce, if you see anything suspicious, see it, say it, sort it.
So you saw it,
I
But you
looked for
tried to say
someone
it.
to say something.
but you couldn't sort it.
No, it was
So
unsorted.
basically you failed.
Yeah, but
So
so
imagine
they
if this
care
was
more about
actually...
terrorism, which is less frequent than.
Maybe they should change the poster to Smelted Delta, innit?
Yes.
Yeah, unfortunately,
Yeah.
Okay.
What would you-
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Yes.
alaikum assalam.
This is the new and improved, revamped Islam 21C podcast. We have brother Ustaz Uncle Azad Ali in the
Uncle.
in
Where'd you get
the in the
uncle
hot
from?
seat
Yeah,
today.
brilliant. Alright, let's try it.
I'm Salman Butt, Islam 21C.
It's so funny.
Chief
He's
editor.
calling me uncle and I look younger than him.
Yeah, blatantly,
It's
bro.
okay.
That's what I was thinking, man.
Mashallah, mashallah.
Mashallah, mashallah.
Yeah.
The wisdom and the youth, mashallah. And my co-host is
Umer
What's your name again?
Suleman. Wait, more than
Well,
that? I ain't got any fancy titles, bro. I ain't got uncle or doctor in it, so
Umer Suleman, finance guru,
scamster.
scamster, ACN,
Yeah, that's it.
LMNOP.
Yeah, purple moon, whatever it's called. Traffic monsoon.
I can see why it's
terrorism.
improved. Terrorism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had, I mean,
We did.
you're part of Cage,
Mm.
obviously, and we've spoken a lot of times before. But this last few days has kind of mixed up the whole media scene
Mm.
around terrorism, right? Because before, obviously for many years, terrorism has been a Muslim thing in the wider kind of media vocabulary, especially in
Well, they try
the
to
UK.
associate it with just
Yeah.
Muslims, yeah. No, obviously, last Friday, what took place in Christchurch, horrific, shook up the world. 50 martyrs, subhanallah.
Inshallah.
It's just, I think, when I heard of it, I was just numb. Because it's just so overwhelming, and
Were you
I made the
surprised,
mistake. No, it's not surprise. It's obviously, look, as an organization, we've been saying this, that the war on terror and everything else, and like policies and media institutions, commentators, politicians, the way they've been normalizing the kind of dehumanization of Muslims and Islam, is this was an inevitable kind of point.
And that's not just something that Cage or kind of the
No, it's
activist
just-
type
This is
Muslims
something
are saying.
But yes,
I
I think
remember,
just to disagree a little bit, I think the problem with us as a community is we kind of don't focus on the right thing. So many Muslims, I would say, majority of Muslims, I would say, and majority of the Muslim organizations, I would say, are very busy with your kind of EDLs and Tommy Robinsons of the world, which they're the symptoms, really, of the issue that we need to deal with. A lot of people are afraid, feel politically, I don't know, scared, or they might lose favor or might get called names. They're very, very kind of nervous about calling out Islamophobia that is rampant in, for example, the Conservative Party. You know, I don't know if you saw...
about the Muslim community or just generally?
Let's talk about the Muslim community first.
Yeah.
I think, you know, so when Boris Johnson kind of compared our sisters to letterboxes and things like that, there was lots of Muslims meeting him, shaking hands, inviting him to mosque, taking pictures. It had no impact. There was nobody that actually, you know,
There
said...
was a lot of
online.
condemnation.
No,
and that
there
kind
was
of stuff.
online. Online, there was condemnation. But this isn't
And
like...
people like Boris get abused wherever they go. Alhamdulillah.
No.
don't
It's
they?
like... It's,
I remember people were shouting
we
once,
shouldn't...
Tory scum, and he was like, everyone was really happy inviting us. They were saying, Tories come.
Yeah, he didn't understand.
Yeah.
But I think we do kind of live in a kind of bubble when we think that condemnation on social media is the same thing as, because the real thing happens in, like, you know, in real life. So let me give you another example. Universally in this world, most people would see Tony Blair as someone who's got blood on his hands. He took us to a war that killed thousands and thousands of Muslims, Muslims, and it was based on basically
Complete lies.
Complete lies, yeah.
Fabrication.
So here is a man who's got that much blood on his hand, yet we've still got ulama that is meeting him.
Really?
That are shaking hands with him. We've got people that are giving him money, Muslims that are giving him money.
The thing is, you're always going to get some people like that.
Not
aren't
some.
you?
These aren't some people. These are people who are in leadership positions.
Yeah, but
So this
not necessarily
normalization-
like the masses of Muslims.
No,
Wouldn't
the
you say
masses
the,
of Muslims...
or the mass of
the
ulama
masses
even?
of Muslims... Yeah, no. The masses of Muslims, first of all, are silent. The masses of ulama are mainly quietist and silent.
Really?
Okay, yeah, really.
No,
Okay,
come on.
just give me an example. Give me an
I don't
example.
mention names, but you know,
Why are you doing that for?
I'm joking.
Yeah, you're a doctor, and even then, we unless you can do
No,
surgery,
no one's seen his certificate to this day.
yeah,
I paid good money for that.
unless you can actually perform an operation and surgery.
I can on
Yeah?
some plants.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, botanical gardener. But anyway, just
Who's a plant?
Going back to that point, I think there is.
They
a
can't
plant
see your
in there.
shift.
But
Yeah,
no,
they
you know,
come-
as we hear all that, but don't you think alhamdulillah for world leaders like Jacinda now?
No, come on, look.
What, bruv?
Before,
Bruv,
You know when
did
I
you
heard
not
her
see the
name-
scarf on her?
no,
Yeah, she's
Subhanallah,
wearing
look,
hijab though, innit?
let's just.
And
there's
her
2
name
points.
is Jacinda.
Just been there.
Yeah, she
2
sounds
points. First
very
of
dissy.
all, I'm not gonna doubt that she wasn't sincere when she was meeting the
Good.
people of the relatives of those that were murdered. I'm not doubting that at all. But that doesn't take away, you know, her history and record of like warmongering and supporting.
So she
invasions
supported
of-
Tony
So
Blair.
there
She was
is- yeah. There is
No,
all of
wait.
that stuff. So
What's this?
she supported Tony Blair.
In what? Well, she's
Yeah,
over in
right.
New Zealand.
yeah,
How's she going to support him in the UK?
yeah,
just,
it's
you know,
part of
online
the
or
UN,
something,
bro.
innit? I don't know.
No, seriously, what did she
Facebook.
do? What did
Yeah,
she
She
do?
liked one of his posts.
Yeah. What did she do?
I don't know what she did, but
No,
someone was
she
saying
was-
that she
was-
committed
she
the New
supported the
Zealand
invasion
to.
into Iraq. She was
Right.
supportive of that. She was supportive. Basically, Australia, New Zealand, they were supportive of the war on terror policies that's come out since 9/11. Consistently, that's where kind of it's been going. But I think, look, on just seriously, just to make that point again, I think
Yeah.
we need to really, as a community, we really need to wake up to this. That, you know, we need to look at, you know, there was
Tommy
this-
Robinson
Did you
isn't
see
the
this
big
video
problem.
about Chelsea Clinton,
No.
where 2 students confronted Chelsea Clinton when she, uninvited, turned up to a vigil that was organized in their university kind of mosque. I think it was in New York. Yeah. So she turns up uninvited. These 2, and they're Palestinian activists as well. They saw her and they kind of called her out because weeks before she joined in the crowd that was attacking Ilhan Omar You know, just go. And I mean, she was all Ilhan Omar did is call out the Zionist lobby. That's all she did. But the amount of condemnation and Chelsea Clinton was one of those who kind of added fuel to that fire. Now, these two women called her out, right? Then what happened to the kind of fragile liberal kind of left and some on the right? What happened? They felt offended. Why were they offended? Because you actually called me out. You actually said to my face that what I did was wrong, and that's rude of you. Since when has that become something that is lacking etiquette?
Yeah, an issue of etiquette.
Yeah,
And also that's
this
quite
is where
common,
we
a
are.
widespread thing, though. I
No,
mean,
this is where we are as a society, but it is horrifying that this is where we are as Muslims. There's a very big difference. Like, you know, how is it we are teaching our youngsters that actually, you know, when you see someone do something wrong, don't worry about it. You know, don't say it's you know, almost...
Don't hold them to account.
Don't hold them to account.
Enjoin the good, forbid the evil.
And I think there is a little bit of teaching that needs to clarify where the hadith about covering your brother's faults and sins and accountability. This is something, you know, we need to really wake up.
But where's the balance, Azad, bro? Because you see there's some people who are purely activist focused, and they see everything through the prism of activism. And so, you know, it's funny sometimes the same people, it's like if there's no one to have a go at, they'll pick a fight with a brown bag, do you know what I mean, with a paper bag, because everything is then done through that. And so they don't know when to, you know, back off, and that comes with a level of maturity as a community and as an individual, and political maturity.
No, we need I think, look, if we
so
just focus
your message
on the UK,
is essentially, your message is don't think that Tommy Robinson or the kind of symptoms like this person who committed this crime, the terrorist, don't think that is the main issue. That's just a cause of a whole
no, that's not
system.
the cause. That's the symptom. That's the symptom.
I mean, that's a result.
That's
of
a result of
a whole
structure.
system.
A structure.
So you're
that
calling
exists.
for us to understand the structural nature of Islamophobia.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you're saying part of that is politicians.
Yeah, institutions.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you got, for example, the Henry Jackson Society, who regularly smear Muslims, attack Islam, and are so close to the government. You've got a whole raft of MPs that are like supporters and members of this organization. You've got people like Douglas Murray, for example. He actually even wrote an article today, and it's actually shocking. I'm going to actually try to find it and read out the headline in The Spectator. But, you know, this is what I call Islamophobia in suits, yeah?
EDL in a blazer.
Not EDL in a blazer, because these guys are sophisticated, they're educated, they know what they're doing. They kind of are
Ideologically driven?
Very much. They have like the ideology isn't just one thing. It's different interests, but they all come together in actually ensuring that there is a kind of status quo when it comes to Muslims and Islams. And this is important to understand.
He
so
said conditions must be made harder for Muslims across the board.
Yeah, I mean, look
The
at
whole Cold War.
Let me find
against
the thing. Look at this stat, right? Murdoch in Australia, in 5 newspapers, in 1 year, wrote 2,891 articles that was trashing Islam in just 1 year. That's almost 8 articles a day.
Wow.
That is like smearing, trashing Muslims and Islam. This is now, like, to me, like, that's like I kind of hear that number and I'm like dumbfounded. I'm like thinking, what chance has anyone got to actually see anything other than the bad? Now, thankfully, a lot of people don't read perhaps these newspapers and everything else, and they don't necessarily
it still gets
believe
trickled down, though, isn't
but it has effects on people, and we see. So this guy, Branton Tarrant, right, is his name, right? Before he fired his first bullet, what did he do? He wrote a 75-page manual, manifesto. Like, you know, and what did the New Zealand authorities say? It was really well executed, planned, kind of act.
Mm.
It wasn't just some random guy doing some random thing.
Lone wolf.
It was very well thought out. So this you just triggered me. This thing about lone wolf. The other thing is like, subhanallah, look how they're humanizing this evil, right? Angelic boy.
Yeah.
He was bullied. All of this kind of.
He was a little bit chubby.
Yeah, he was a little bit, little bit chubby. Okay, I think I'm in danger here. but do you see? Look how they humanize this whole.
But
anyway.
Just like you're saying, the EDL types and stuff. That is, what you're mentioning, that is also a symptom as well. Because, I mean, I get triggered when I see people talking about the kind of the contemporary nature of this stuff, but it's nothing new.
No, it's not new.
Right. And even when they talk about it in the context of post 9/11, because your clock starts at 9/11, you ignore maybe the conditions that brought about 9/11, right? And
well, unfortunately,
and the last few hundred years
of the population have only know since 9/11. This is what we've got to understand. In the Muslim community, majority of the Muslims, around 48% of Muslims are 25 and under.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow.
So have they known a world that is before the war on terror?
But I'm
They have
talking
not.
hundreds of years.
Yeah,
Right.
look, I don't want to conflate two different things. One is there's historically, since the day Islam was born, there's always been a conflict against it, an attack against it. I don't want to conflate people who want to criticize Islam, want to attack Islam. All of that is fine, and this is something that is normal. And look, we accept that. You can say, you don't accept this part of our religion, you think this is backward, whatever. This is all normal and it's fine.
Yeah, but there's a difference between that and what I'm talking about here. What we're talking about here is basically the attack on Islam or Muslims, which is based on a mythical, stereotypical discourse. Orientalism, right, is a prime example.
Yeah.
Which goes back as far as the Crusades, for example.
Yeah.
I mean, Abdullah Thompson, he wrote an article about manufacturing the Muslim enemy, 1,000 years of lies, basically. Islamophobia is relied on. He showed examples of the consistent motifs, which happen to be mythical, right, that have, such as the Muslim invader, right, such as the infidel. Everyone says infidel is a term made to describe us first, This
is the irony.
Yeah.
But another thing, like, look, I understand like the history and the war, etc., and how people frame us. I want to take it slightly different and slightly down a different route, if you don't mind, Azad and Salman.
Yeah, sure.
The way the Muslim community has responded to what happened, do you think they responded in the correct way?
I think mostly, I would say, is improved.
Yeah.
They didn't.
Based on what? Improved
because
from when?
In the sense that the targeting and the focus of where the kind of energy needed to go was there. So I think when it happened, the outpouring, the empathy, the sympathy, the kind of dua and everything else that took place is exemplary. But then following that, to look at what caused this, I think there was a greater focus on not just on
structural elements,
Tarrant, but on the media, on the politicians, on like different policies. It's like there's this fantastic article in the Guardian was written that Australia's like shocked by its Islamophobia, and then it's like, well, why are you shocked? You got policies that are Islamophobic.
And Muslim leadership, have you think they've stepped up?
I think the new generation of Muslim leadership have stepped up. I think there are some that are there that are problematic still, that are reinforcing the old kind of colonial tropes.
Such as what?
Look, this is...
Not names, obviously.
No, I'm not going to say names, but let's just say, which I don't mind saying, but but let's just... this is a tragedy that affected who?
Us.
Muslims, right? So the people that should be at the forefront of this is who? Should be Muslims. But I've seen some people, they they've kind of mashed it up with other things. If you look at the government's response, like, initially the statements were a little bit okay, though they couldn't use the word Islamophobia for some reason. But then it became about hate against all faiths. Like, this isn't the time to talk about hate against all faiths. And then when
That's
you have
expected from
Muslim,
some quarters,
so-called Muslim leaders who say the same
Yeah,
thing,
yeah.
then you think, okay, you know
All,
what?
all lives
You ju-
matter.
all lives matter. Yeah, it's just like, the subhanallah, the brothers and sisters haven't even been buried, right?
Subhanallah.
And you've completely moved off focus and
Yeah.
kind of watered it, diluted it, and saying, oh yeah, we need to also challenge this and we need to challenge that. Not saying that's not something you do, but this isn't the moment.
There's also been a kind of a backlash of some people between the kind of, the hello brother thing.
Okay, so yeah, I think, look, that's just an internal thing. So some people are like, look, that's not something to be proud of and something we should be encouraging. This Muslim man saw someone with a machine gun walking into the mosque and his response was, hello, brother. No, his response should have been, like, raise the alarm, panic, stop him. What's going on here? Maybe the brother thought it was a police or some kind of operation or something.
Yeah.
Allahu Alam, may Allah give him Jannah.
They
right?
they
This
said
is
that he
nothing.
was dressed as they thought he was some kind of police.
Yeah, he had army fatigue
Yeah.
and things like that on. So, but let's just forget about the individual. But then what others are saying, as a community, this is not what we should be promoting. Now, the reason they're saying that is because we always feel the need to say Islam is peace, Islam is peace. We always need this. There's this kind of inner
Is that
inferiority
the
complex we
colonial
have.
trope you're mentioning?
Yeah, there is a little bit
That
of
you
that.
you
because you-
inherently believe something. You're someone violent or prone to. You're violent.
You've
regards to you is more
internalized.
congenital.
Basically, you've internalized.
Yeah, and you have to
the
try and
Islamophobia.
dispel that.
And also, you spend the rest of your life trying to say, no, I'm not this, I'm not
Look
this.
how peaceful
You're
I am.
defined by what you're not.
Yeah, you've become,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's the argument they're bringing. They're saying, look, this isn't what we do. And I kind of agree with that, because it's like, we need to have the right response at the right time. The Muslims need to stay confident about their identity.
What about having different people having their respective responses? So naturally, someone might be a bit, gentle in their kind of persona, their
There's nothing wrong with
personality.
that. That's why.
So that would appeal to them.
Yeah,
For some people, they would
wrong
more.
with that, but
They would
it's
appeal
not-
to the more
it's
the man who, for example, through
So,
a
for
card
example-
machine had chased the
no.
chased
So,
the terrorists away. So,
that
they would
that's-
think they'll
see,
focus on his
like,
aspect.
that's why I
of
said the right thing at the right time. Okay, when you're being shot at and everything else, you don't actually, bring a rose out. You don't say, hello, brother. Let's have some tea. You got to defend
I happen
yourself.
to agree with you, but maybe that's just our personality.
It's not personality. It's not about, and this is the mistake we make. It's not about personalities. It's about having the right response for the right context. Okay, so now if you wanted to go and say you wanted to go and engage with people on the street and everything else, your demeanor, your approach and everything else needs to be one that is open, that is kind of warm, that is kind of using things like that. And so that's the right thing. At that time, you don't be, harsh and everything else. So it's about having the right response at the right time. So that's where I'm kind of getting at with this.
What's happening? Hello, Umer.
So
You lost
yeah.
a bit of weight there.
But let me read that comment out, right? So Douglas Murray wrote an article, and the heading of his article is, "Who should we blame for the New Zealand atrocity? Apart from the Christchurch gunman himself, it isn't clear that anyone else is responsible for the massacre." Right, now imagine after 7/7, a Muslim had written an article with that headline. Like what? Like the whole country would be in a meltdown, and this is the kind of hypocrisy that is. And how is this like tolerated?
How do you talk about double standards and hypocrisy without at the same time falling into a position of weakness?
How would you fall into a position of weakness?
You're saying, oh, what about those people? You didn't treat them like that. Why are you treating us
I
like
don't know,
that?
but that's not what we're saying. What we're
Mm.
saying is,
Because sometimes I feel when people make
there's-
the examples of,
yeah,
oh, when a Muslim, it happens to a Muslim, you do this. When it happens to a white guy,
Yeah.
you do that.
yeah.
And in turn, it's I feel sometimes that maybe that's pushing into an inferiority or an inferior discourse.
I really don't. To be honest, I don't understand how it is, but I kind of see a different point, which is that it's happening to me. You do it to me, so you should do it to him, which is wrong.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to avoid here. The point I'm trying to make here is that when incidents do happen, when 7/7 did happen, right? If someone had said, "That's it, there is nobody else to blame. This is it. The only people to blame is those people," which in effect is true because they carried out the act, right? Then why have we since then had so many legislations come in? Why have we
But
since then?
We disagree with those legislations anyway.
No, we do.
All
No, I'm
about
saying why have we? The question is why have we? Because you don't believe that's it. Because you as a government and you as a
Well, you
a
do,
institution,
But
don't-
because
don't
based
believe
on
it.
your centuries-old Orientalist narratives and discourse
no.
about the causes of non-white violence.
I think that causes of violence and non-white violence that's a huge subject in itself. But I think you off, bro. Yeah. Thanks for keeping the seat warm for us.
Jazakallah.
Okay. So yeah, that's a different topic altogether. But let me just finish that point, which is that it's not about you need to do the same thing there. It's about the denial of what is happening. So what we're saying, as for example, the reason we think prevent is bad, other than the fact that it is bad and not just in its implementation, but it's so counterproductive as we have seen in the last 10, 12 years. It actually misses the whole point. It takes the focus away from the cause of the issue to the symptoms, right? What we're saying is let's have a honest and open and full discussion about the causes of violence, okay? Political violence, if you will, okay? And we need to look at individual actors who cause violence, organizations that cause violence, and states that cause violence. And this is the conversation that we need to have. If we can focus our discussion on that, then we will see why certain things are happening.
Yeah.
Okay.
But do you not see the perhaps double standard that maybe some of us are harboring? Not yourself, maybe, but I'm talking about generally when we see stuff like this happening. A white terrorist and people are saying, let's look at the things that radicalized him, the Rupert Murdochs, the Douglas Murrays and so forth. But when a Muslim does something, we say, and rightly so, don't blame
The entire community or
ideology.
Yeah.
His ideology for his violence, because there are empirically determined causes for violence, and ideology isn't one of them.
No, I think, look, one thing we have to be really clear about, which is that it doesn't matter who causes the violence, there is a motivation. Okay, there is a reason why they do that. So if we just take the examples of the 7/7 bombers, they actually videoed and filmed their reasons. They were very clear, and it is very clear. It's foreign policy. It's like you did this, I did that. It's cause and action and reaction, basically. Yeah. So there is a motivation, and we can't hide that, and we shouldn't hide that. Okay, no one is denying that there is a motivation, but what we're saying is, we need to focus on this in an objective manner as violence and not exceptionalize it when it's done by someone who's black or someone who's Muslim. Okay?
So,
but open it for everyone.
So just, Umer speaking here.
Okay.
A different sounding voice. Don't worry about that. You can't see him. Look, I think we've kind of summarized the point that this institutionalized or structural racism that's kind of top down in our society leads to the victimization of certain segments of the community, and so legislation, everything's written in that kind of fashion that certain communities are naturally stigmatized by the system. And what I want to go into is how do we fix that problem? I know you talk about let's redirect the conversation to motivation, but from a much deeper level, how do we tackle institutionalized racism, that structural racism, which is, as Salman mentioned, it can even be taken centuries back. It's gone that far. People don't even realize they're being racist. And if we take it back, even just make it more personal, on the Muslim community, our own Asian community, and so forth. I mean, it's even within marriage, so forth. We can see someone or come do a business transaction. We look at someone, we say, okay, you know what? He doesn't look right. Yeah, he looks a bit shifty. They're all drug dealers, and where do we draw the line, even Islamically, on what is intuition, which is allowed, and what is being stereotypical and prejudiced?
Yeah, that's it's a deep question, and I think the first thing to do is separate two things: discrimination and stereotypes and structural kind of racism and everything else, because naturally as humans we will discriminate. That's an innate quality of a human being.
Agreed. Yeah.
So that in itself isn't the issue and the problem. It's about when it has the added element of power, for example.
Or the ability to disempower, disenfranchise, or disadvantage that person or a large number of people based on that discrimination.
So for example, if I was running a business that employed like thousands of people, and then my employment, the way I employ people is based on stereotypes and discrimination, then that's problematic. Yeah. But if I'm, for example, going for I don't know, marriage talk or something like that, I might decide that, you know what, I don't like beards this long and this kind of hair color, whatever it is. These are normal. So we've got to separate the two. So that since we are keeping the focus on the structures, okay, so how do we actually
Dhulm, basically.
Yeah.
One is dhulm.
Yeah.
And one is maybe a bit of ignorance or something, or maybe personal preference or something.
So let's
So I mean, my point
let's
is
take on
though,
the structure. So you're asking, how do we actually tackle the structure?
So if we're going to tackle it in our own community, maybe is that kind of a methodology?
Before we go to our community, I think
it's a mistake to try and talk about structural racism or the structural nature of racism, and then in doing so, trying to address it, trying to make people less racist.
Yeah,
I think
not
that's
only that, I think because what you do, like, you miss the point, and what you do is you go on to the symptoms again and leave the cause. So that's why I was saying the first thing to do is actually for us to understand, when we say structural racism or structural Islamophobia, what is it that we mean? What does that actual term mean? There are, many people who think what it means, but they don't really understand what it means. And I think, look, so the first step is like for especially activists and people who are activists, they need to understand that. The second step is, once you've understood what those structures are and how they operate, you have to then have a principled approach to this, which has to be long-term. There is no short-term solution to this. Okay, so an example would be that all the counterterrorism legislation, Prevent and everything else. Why is our position that Prevent needs to end? Because that is the only way to stop this structural policy which discriminates primarily against Muslims, 50 times more than anyone else, right? That's the only way to stop it. Now, some might say, oh, but we need to do something and everything else, and so they start to compromise with naively, because we don't really need to do anything. That's not our job, that we need to do anything. But more importantly, we need to understand that this doesn't work. As we have seen, it's not worked. I think it's
Professor David Miller and a few others, they had this piece of research once called The 5 Pillars of Islamophobia, right? Yeah. And the first one, they said that the backbone of Islamophobia in the UK is the counterterrorism apparatus.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
He mentioned the kind of neocons and those types of social movements, But the actual, so it's not like some weird fringe
No,
opinion.
no.
This is
This is research.
this is empirical research,
That's
right?
right, yeah.
Of a social scientist,
Yeah.
right? And that's because the whole structure, the language, the metaphors, the imagery of counterterrorism is focused on a heightened, disproportionate threat from Muslims,
Mm.
and that's one of the meanings of a phobia is a irrational fear.
Yeah.
So if you're more likely to die from a bee sting or something than a Muslim terrorist, and you have so many, or you have legislation after legislation, policy after policy, trying to stop something called radical Islam or Muslim Islamist terrorism, then that's a problem. That's a symptom of, that's what causes people to view you entirely
Yeah.
as a community under suspicion.
Yeah. It's manufactured. That's the thing, isn't it? So if you kind of when you think of knife crime, for example, a lot of people will think black
Yeah.
kids, right? Why is that? That is something that the media has manufactured.
Representation of
Yeah?
the
Because they don't tell you about the white kids that are stabbing the white kids, or the white people that are stabbing the white
Yeah.
people. You don't see that day in, day out. There aren't, scrolling news kind of lines on that. There aren't lots of interviews on that. There aren't newspaper headlines on
Yeah.
that. So it's the same thing with this whole exceptionalizing terrorism.
You know, in my spare time,
Yeah,
it's quite a sad thing to do.
you
But
actually have spare
I
time.
I just go through the global terrorism database,
Yeah.
right? Because I heard
Got
it in
the
a
answer
talk
there.
somewhere,
Yeah.
just to see, what the different types of. I think the most recent year they have available is 2017. Basically, it's not some kind of left wing or kind of liberal, whatever. It's I think funded by the Department of Homeland Security in the USA, yeah, and it catalogs all the things that are described as terrorism, both failed attacks and foiled plots and successful ones. And I think the complete year statistics I saw, do you know how many terrorist attacks there were in the UK? I think this was 2016 or 17. It was 103. Yeah. 103 terrorist attacks, or attacks described as terrorism in the UK, including foiled ones.
Yeah.
And do you know how many were by Muslims? Any guesses?
I
Three.
do, but I didn't want to take the thunder away.
There's three,
Three.
yeah. So that's like 2%, or no, that's like 3, let's say round it up to 3%. And Muslims are 5%, by the way. So just off the bat, we're underrepresented when it comes to our fair share of terrorism. If you go by those statistics.
I'm not sure about that phraseology there, but yeah.
Obviously,
I don't think
we shouldn't do terrorism.
No,
disclaimer.
But the point you're making
is what? To add insult to injury, there were 3 anti-Muslim terrorist attacks recorded in that same year, right? So, and the vast majority, by the way, of those attacks were between Irish Republicans and Unionist, Northern Ireland. A lot of them in Northern Ireland and stuff.
Yeah.
But the point is,
it's
not
exceptionalized.
To say,
the point is it's exceptionalized to the point that
if you're more scared of a Muslim,
we've got to. So the other structure we have to get out of is this: the narrative that's been set for us. So we as Muslims are so busy, like even we're talking about this ourselves. We're so busy with this issue that is probably just a % at the most. That's to do with us. Do you get it? We've got 99% of other things we need to be focused on. Okay, and it's important that we do that. When this is the thing, the allure and the kind of what's the right word, the enchantment of power, is what that when it tells you something, you feel immediately it must be right, and you accept it, and you don't challenge it. Okay, you're not critical about it.
Well, you're so happy that power's even talking to you.
You got those samosas as well and things like that going on there. But if we actually look at things critically and in an honest way, objectively, we'll see what is it that what stops, for example, Muslims and Muslim leaders saying to the government, excuse me, okay, yes, we do want to talk about terrorism and everything else, but we'll do that, in the 1 minute out the 60 that we have, right? For the 59 minutes, these are the things I want to talk to you about. What stops you? You can't even have a conversation with the police or the Home Office or anyone else about Islamophobia without them conflating it with counterterrorism.
Yeah.
What is all this? So, we got to learn to
Even the
come out
Prevent
of the
lobby
narrative.
has used this attack to try and resurrect Prevent by saying, "Oh, look, it applies to white people as well."
Yeah.
This person, he
Such
was
a misnomer,
an
that is.
extremist.
Yeah. It's complete misdirection.
Yeah.
First of all, the policy is bad. Okay, so we don't want the policy to affect anyone, let alone white people. Okay. Second thing is like they try to play this game of like we're nearly hitting 50% of white referrals and 50% of Muslims referrals. Hello, that's 50% from 50 million people. Right, and Muslims is like 50% from what 3 million people.
Yeah.
Who are you trying to?
But
keep
even
here?
then, that's worrying. Do you know why? Because there's mounting evidence to show that Prevent is actually counterproductive.
Yeah, no,
i.e.,
it's
it actually makes the problem of terrorism worse. It makes you more likely to suffer an attack in your area if, for example, Prevent is stopping people with grievances, with an angry ideology or whatever, from having their from being able to express themselves and stuff, right? Because time and time again, history shows that it's when those even radical and extreme groups, wasn't using the word extreme, but extreme groups in terms of even if it's like animal rights activists or whatever, someone outside the norm, it's precisely when they feel and when they experience state suppression of their ability to organize and campaign in a non-violent way. That's when some of them turn to the bullet. They say, "Look, we've tried the non-violent means.
Let's try this." Yeah.
IRA,
I'm sure that's
IRA.
I'm sure that's
Anti-Vietnam activists in the USA, right? Anarchist bombings in the early 1900s, right? All of these and a few others. I remember reading this about this the other day. So many of them. It's when they feel that okay, we can't, we're not allowed to express or call for our cause anymore. That's when a minority of them turn to the dynamite.
Yeah.
Right. And this is why even the Foreign Commonwealth Committee in 2016 they said so-called political Islam in the Muslim world is actually a firewall to terrorism. Yeah. Because if Muslims
that's where the made-up word Islamist comes in, isn't it?
So Islamism. So in order to stop terrorism, we need more extremism, so-called extremism.
It's
right?
so nonsensical.
Able to be heard and fair enough refuted peacefully in society. Yeah. In order to stop reduce the amount of terrorism, and Prevent claims to do the precise opposite of that. And I think that's why if you look at the rhetoric of far right who are getting more and more kind of angry, that's precisely one of their grievances. They're saying we're not able to say anything or political correctness. When you're letting brown and black person say something, you're not letting me say something. Political correctness, all that kind of stuff. I think whistles.
So
Prevent is going to make it worse if we say, okay, let's apply Prevent to right-wing white people as well.
Yeah,
these
are some of the things. But I think, there's three probably important things. The first thing is the reason that the policy does not work because it does not focus on the cause; it's focused on the symptoms. So it misses the target. Okay, that is universally agreed. Okay, academically proven. There's hundreds. It's like if you go on Prevent Watch website, actually, there's like over 400 cases on there that's documented how it's not working. Completely misses the target. All right, that's number one. Number two is like what it does is it actually sows division within the communities that it's targeting and the wider community. Right, so what you have is splits in the Muslim communities, right? I take Prevent money, and most of the Muslims will say, "Oh, you're
really,
you're astaghfirullah." But you know what I mean?
You heard it here.
You heard it there. You heard it.
We're gonna get that clip and blackmail him with that.
That's it. I'm going to walk out with it. No. So then what happens is other Muslims are against you, rightly. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the thing.
Maybe that's the aim.
Well, no, it is.
some
It is.
people.
It is. But the third thing is, like, I think, and we just got to kind of understand is it kind of what's the word? It disempowers
Yeah.
you from your citizen, your rights as a citizen. Okay.
Absolutely.
It disempowers you from challenging authority, challenging power. It disempowers you from challenging a narrative. Okay, it completely disempowers you to actually what you
neuters you.
said to the where you can actually hold a discussion and debate about something. It's thought policing. Okay, this is really important.
And this
to
is
understand.
when a young angry Muslim, right? He's looking at or she's reading the news or whatever, and they're seeing their brothers and sisters dying and they're getting angry. Maybe they've even got mental health issues, right? Maybe they've got a bit of sociopathy. They can't empathize with someone, some people and so forth. They're expecting their imams or hearing in the Jummah khutbah for someone to address these things, and the imams, a lot of them have their hands tied. They feel they have their hands tied because they're scared to.
Yeah.
They're scared to talk
they-
about this because
because
it's being too political in the
Yeah,
masjid.
no, because the whole industry is working against them. So if your masjid is charity registered, you've got the charity commission on your case, doing bogus investigations, right? Just on Muslim mosques and Muslim charities, right?
Yeah, there was a report a few years ago about the
Claystone
report.
Yeah, Claystone report. Yeah. So that's the structure, and this is what I mean, that we got these are the things that we got to challenge.
If you're a
Not-
school and there's Ofsted, you're worried about.
I mean, subhanallah,
with
look at what's going on with the schools, Muslim schools, and how Ofsted has become a political
Yeah.
vehicle completely.
We need to
Break.
pray Maghrib. So, what's your final kind of 3 or 1 message to the Muslims in order to
I think look,
break out of this cycle of fear
Yeah, look,
and disempowerment?
the most important thing, as brothers and sisters out there, as Muslims, the most important thing is your iman, right? Your iman needs to be solid, okay? The second thing is you have a purpose as a Muslim, okay? That is your sole focus. Your pleasing Allah in the akhirah is your number one focus, okay? So don't let these things that are happening around you in the world distract you from the focus that you have, which is you need to be going to your salah, you need to be praying, all of these things, you need to be giving dawah and everything. So these are your focus. Third thing, importantly, and this is not for everyone, Amr bil Ma'ruf Nahy Anil Munkar comes into it. This is not for everyone. When you need to challenge the injustices that are justice, there is no peace without justice. You need to challenge the injustices. But before you do that, my brothers and sisters, I implore you, before you do that, understand what injustice is. Understand what justice is. Understand, what you're trying to fight and what you're trying to deal with. Because in this game, a little knowledge about what you're dealing with will only reinforce the oppression that we're trying to fight. There are so many Muslims, unfortunately, that are doing a lot of work, a lot of activities, okay?
Little knowledge.
But they're actually on a mouse wheel and they don't even realize it. So they're going round and round and running, but they're not going anywhere.
That reminds me of a quote Sheikh Sajid Umar said, there's a difference between movement and progress.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah. You can see bars, #line bars.
Yeah.
You can see more of that big discussion at islam20c.com/.
And one more thing, I think one thing, if people are interested, we are actually putting a course together on activism. It's actually based on Asim's book, A Virtue of Disobedience. And we're actually putting a workshop together. So inshallah, if you're interested in activism and you want to do this,
Cage joint Islam Trinity workshop.
Okay. You heard this live, right? Okay. Islam 21C is paying for all the venues and we're
as long as you don't
delivering.
have to do anything else. I don't know.
Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah khair. Uncle Azad.
Oh my God.
Our respect is in them.
There's no respect here.
He's our uncle. Respect, mashallah. We grab his knees.
If you're gonna actually give me a term of endearment, you can call me granddad. You can call me caveman, but never uncle.
Cage man. I was about
Cage
cage man. Yeah.
This
There you have it,
This
brothers
is
and
our
sisters.
symbol. This is our symbol.
Cage man Azad Ali with your brother, friend, Salman Butt, Islam20unc.com.
That's Dr.
Thank
Salman
you.
Butt.
That's Dr. Salman Butt. Yes, thank you very much. Thanks for reminding me. I forget sometimes myself. Thanks for watching and listening. If you enjoyed this discussion, give it a like and a share, so we know that you liked it. Maybe even a comment or two. Possibly, perhaps no swearing or profanity. If you don't like it, let us know as well. Maybe privately. And we have we'll take your comments very seriously, inshallah. So like, share, and if you want to, I hope to see you in the next episode, inshallah, and I hope to see you too.
Jazakallah khair for inviting me. Okay, assalamu alaikum.
سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك واشهد ان لا اله الا انت واستغفرك واتوب اليك. السلام عليكم ورحمه الله.